Your coding agents might be failing to give you the best results because of the skill issue of how you are organizing your context to the AI. Today we're going to discuss this Andrej Karpathy's idea of turning your code base into a self-organizing second brain. Now I'm going to tie this on the software world, but you can apply this into all your section of your life where you use these AI agents. Now before we dive into his idea, let's first understand who is this Andrej Karpathy. Andrej Karpathy is known as one of the founding members of OpenAI. He's a former director of AI at Tesla. He's gotten PhD at Stanford, one of the most cited AI researchers alive, and he's now independent, writes, teaches, and builds in public. Now, you probably know him from this. He's actually the one who invented this term vibe coding, and he actually invented into his early 2025 tweets that he made about how these agents are working with code. Now, last month he published this GIST LLM Wiki, a pattern for persistent knowledge, and this is what we're going to be discussing today. Now, first, let's discuss the problem we're trying to solve. Most people's experience with LLM and documents look like a rag. You upload a collection of files, the LLM retrieves relevant chunks at query time and generate answer. And this works, but the LLM is rediscovering knowledge from scratch on every question. So this is the problem. There's no accumulation. All right, now the solution is here. Instead of just retrieving from raw documents at query time, what if the LLM incrementally builds and maintains a persistent wiki, a structured interlinked collection of markdown files that sits between you and the raw sources? Now, Andrej Karpathy's idea is to solve this issue of having too many files that you give to an LLM, and then for each question, after giving you an answer, the next question, you just have to start from scratch. Now, this is actually not a bad thing if you have small conversation or small context, but this becomes a problem when the context becomes too long, and every time the LLM just have to go back to the documents and search each query line by line. Now, Andrej's idea solution for this is creating this LLM wiki, which is persistent. Basically, for every new source or every new document that is added, it tries to find the key information into it, and then it tries to make connection with other raw sources that were added before. And this actually creates some sort of persistent memory for an LLM to check into instead of going back into all the sources that were added. Now let's discuss the architecture behind this idea. We have the raw sources, we have the wiki, we have the schema, and basically the raw sources are immutable source materials. The user needs to drop raw sources there. The LLM never modifies them. For our use case software engineering project, we can have where we just drop the bug reports, description, the pull request description, the decision, and the wiki part, which is the LLM generated part, and it's cross-linked markdown files, and it compounds over time. And you have the Claude.md, which actually describe the schema to the LLM of how to structure the template and process everything. Now for the operation, we have three main operations, and the first one is ingest, and the ingest is actually giving the LLM the raw source to process. The LLM reads the source, discuss key takes away with you, and writes summary page in our wiki. Now the query operation is when you ask the LLM questions, and actually it gets the answers from the wiki to read the pages created into them, and then synthesize an answer with citation. And the good thing about that is that good answers can be filled back into the wiki as new pages. Now lint operation helps actually check the health of the wiki, and it's done by the LLM solely, and basically it helps to see if there are any contradiction between pages and see if there are any important thing we missed or data gaps that are between pages. Now you have two special files for indexing and logging, and basically they help the LLM to navigate the wiki as it grows, and we're going to discuss those as we enter into our wiki LLM, which I designed for software project. Alright, we're going to go ahead and see how we can implement this idea into a real world software project. I'm working on this project called Postbox, which is a free open source social media scheduling tool, and you can install it on your own with one click. And basically we're going to see how we can add this idea with raw files divided into things that we need in the software, add scripts to generate them, and see how the wikis are generated. So for us to adopt this idea, we just need to design this simple architecture. We just need raw and wiki folder. And basically the script is where we just generate the script to be listening to the raw folder. For each time we drop into any information in the raw folder. We just process it with the LLM, which is not needed. You can just hook it maybe once a week or maybe in the morning to check everything that was added. It doesn't need to be anytime you add a new file. And basically for my use case, which is software engineering project, I decided to divide the raw folder into these kind of folders. And basically we have bugs, which basically we drop in the MD files with the description of the bugs that were introduced into our software and how we solve them. And the decision, this includes some architectural decision or anything. And the depths, this also includes some dependencies that we chose. The onboarding, where we store all the new dev onboarding questions that they asked. The pull request, things like this. Now, you don't have to adopt my system. You can just design yours. But what's important is what is kept in Wiki. And basically for us to be able to view the .md files well, we're going to be using a program called Obsidian. And to install it, you just need to search Obsidian and install it. And basically it's a free and flexible app for your private thoughts. It helps you write .md files well and give you this graphical view of connection of files. Now, after installing it, we need just to open it. And after opening it, and this is the kind of view it will give. So this is for my YouTube channel. And basically let's click on file and open Vault. And I'm going to choose my software project. And basically the only thing we are going to touch is raw files. And as you can see, raw files are just simple MD files. And if we check on like wikis, like decision, convex versus superbase, we can see that all the files have connection. We have this related field which shows you which all the files that these files are connected to. So here I was choosing between convex versus superbase, where I chose convex in the final, and we can actually move to that page easily without having to juggle around. All right, now to make sure we actually make our LLM process files well, we just need to make sure that our Claude.md file is well written. Basically, it should contain all the structure, how we are organizing our files for it to take the raw files and process it into the wiki. And basically that's it, because everything in the wiki is going to be auto-generated, like index that we saw and logs for logging everything that were like processed. Now into our Claude.md file, if you scroll down, we're going to see where there is a processing pipeline, and there is a step one. You have to read first. We have to extract all the information that we need, like architectural decision, name, modules. We have to match against existing pages. We need to create or update pages, and we need to always create the source pages. And basically we have that folder here. We need to update the index for indexing, and of course append on the log. All right, now the remaining thing is actually to use this wiki as our useful persistent knowledge. And to do that, you can just create a skill via Claude and tell it before any session starts or before answering anything. First, check into our wiki and check things like our architecture design. And basically it's going to go ahead and check it and check even the connections. Now there is an obvious objection that actually was even my first thought, and I saw even one tweet from someone saying that he tried it, but it requires a lot of discipline. Otherwise the knowledge remains behind and drift happens. And basically this was my initial thought. I went on and analyzed this trade-off. And actually if you analyze well, what we just need is dropping files into our raw folder. And this actually doesn't need to be this long. It can be 5 lines of MD files. And basically that takes how many minutes? 1-2 minutes max. And watch the LLM compound knowledge. And I think if you analyze well, after 2 months, 3 months, having a lot of knowledge like this wiki, it's going to actually help in bug detection, which is actually what most software face. So I'm not going to impose on you to develop some habits to create these markdown files every time you finish writing some codes or every time you finish making any decision. But if you analyze well, this wiki is very useful for those people who actually spend a lot of time with some long session chats with these agents. And you don't want them to go back and revisit every file to decide which architecture to use. You don't want them to repeat a fix that introduced an error in a certain session before, which would have been logged into this wiki, and a new session would have actually taken over and used it. And basically those are the kinds of small things which compounds over time to build this kind of persistent knowledge.